I'm going to go over one more, an optimization problem that is kind of interesting. I find it to be. The idea is, this isn't an important question in the sense that even though it's a word problem, it's not a real world word problem that you're ever going to encounter in life. But here I have a 16 centimeter length wire. And I'm going to cut this wire into two pieces. For instance, I cut it right here to get a 2 and a 14. And I'm going to bend, let me call this point C, so A and B are the endpoints of the wire. I'm going to take the left side here, that I made red, and I'm going to take the red piece and bend it into like a little circle. And I'll take the green piece and bend it into a square. And there is these two things together have some area. Now, if I were to instead, for instance, put C over here, now I'd have the red would be bigger, so I'd have a bigger circle, but I'd have a smaller square. And the combined areas will be different depending on where I put point C, and the question is, what is the biggest area, combined area, that I'm able to get? One way to start thinking about a question like this is to take a real specific example. Like if I make it 2 and 14, what would the combined area be? Well, in this case, the square would have a side of 14 over 4, which is the same thing as 7 over 2. So the area would be 49 over 4. Whereas the circle, it has a circumference of 2, so 2 pi r equals 2, or r equals 2 over 2 pi equals 1 over pi. That would be the radius. So the area would be pi times r squared, which in this case is pi times 1 over pi squared, which is pi over pi squared, which is also 1 over pi. So the combined area of the two things would be 49 over 4 plus 1 over pi. 49 over 4 is about 12. This whole thing's around 13. Using a specific example might help you see what the equation is in general. Okay, so here's the problem more generally. I will call the piece that we're going to make the circle out of, call that x. And the piece I'm going to make the square out of, I call that 16 minus x. Now when I bend this into a square, each side is 16 minus x over 4. Makes the area 16 minus x over 4 squared. Now, as far as the circle goes, that x is the circumference of the circle. So x is equal to 2 pi r. So r is equal to x over 2 pi. So that's the radius, x over 2 pi, which makes the area, which is pi r squared, which is pi times x over 2, that pi is in the denominator, x over 2 pi squared. Which is pi times x squared over 4 pi squared. One of the pi's cancel out, but I still have x squared over 4 pi. So the combined area is going to be the x squared over 4 pi, that's the circle, plus this other thing, which is 16 minus x over 4 squared. Now I could pop that into a calculator and make a graph of it, but I'm going to do it with no calculator. because I have these exponents of 2, so it's going to be quadratic. So when I FOIL this out, the numerator becomes 256 minus 32x plus x squared over 16. I'm going to write this as 1 over 4 pi times x squared, like the 1 over 4 pi is the coefficient. And this becomes 16 minus 2x plus 1 over 16 x squared. And now I can combine like terms. The plus 16 ends up over here and the minus 2x there. This 1 over 4 pi x squared and 1 over 16 x squared can get combined into 1 over 4 pi plus 1 over 16 x squared. I can even go further and make a common denominator of 16 pi. Get 4 plus pi over 16 pi. Now, because this is a quadratic, the maximum is at x equals negative b over 2a. Well, negative b is easy enough, that's 2. But 2a is a complicated thing because our a is this, so it's negative b over 2 times 4 plus pi over 16 pi. Those 2's cancels out, and it's 1 over this, which I can do the reciprocal of, and I get 16 pi over 4 plus pi. If I pop that into the calculator, it's somewhere around 7. So it turns out that if I have a wire, and it was 16 inches long, so if I split it up to be 7 and 9, that will get us our largest possible area. I'd have to plug that x into this a here. Just to do it, I did graph this on a graphing calculator, got my parabola, and the vertex ended up being 7.038, comma 8.962. So I can get a combined area. That 7.038, more specifically, is 16 pi over 4 plus pi. I'm not going to plug that in for x. This is our answer. X, that's the point where c should go. It's 7.038. And that's another kind of interesting question. I could change the shapes to triangles and other various things to make it a little bit different, but that's a question you want to be aware of.